Tractate Bava Batra, page 126. Today we're going to deal with several real-world painful subjects. Number one, if you have a case scenario, the Mishnah tells us, a father decided to somehow disinherited one of his sons. Trace a situation, you have a son that is a firstborn, entitled by the Torah law to a double portion, and the father made a will and he disinherited the firstborn in any manner, such as make his portion equal to all the other brothers, or play with the will in a different way that the Torah instructed him. The Mishnah tells us that that's obviously in opposition of the Torah said, and therefore it's ineffective will. Obviously, we're going to deal further with situations such as gift during a lifetime, which is okay if a person decided to give away, it's not inheritance, just matana mechaim, give away part of his estate while he's alive, that's a different story. But if it is a will, and obviously in order to make a will by Torah law, by halacha, you need to have ma'aseh kinyan, you need to have the matter of acquisition with two witnesses, with a kinyan itself, with a matter of acquisition, meaning that everything has to be halachically correct, legally correct by Jewish law. But one of the conditions is it will take effect after the father passing, and if that will was made in instruction which oppose the Torah law, obviously that will in part or in total is ineffective. So that's part of our discussion, and soon you see the application to our days. But there is another phase we're going to discuss, which is a relinquishing of rights from certain entity of a family, such as if we have a firstborn son, which the Torah instructed us that the firstborn son entitled to a double portion. The issue here is they're about to divide the estate. For example, if it was 5 brothers, and all of a sudden they decided to divide it by 20% each, which is 1/5 for each of their brothers. And he displayed equanimity, which means he was totally acquiesced, he didn't say words. Does that mean that he was consent and he gave away his right to receive a double portion or not? Another scenario, if it was, for example, a house and a field, and when it's come to a house, the oldest brother really expressed his opposition. He was vocal, he demonstrated against the kind of disinheritance or taking away, relinquishing rights for not giving him double portion, etc., what he is entitled, while later on, when it was involved with the field, he didn't express his opposition. So soon you see a heavy disputation, not only between the rabbis in the Talmud, but even later on with those rabbis that follow them. We go to 11th, 12th, 13th century, from Rashi to Rashbam to others, how far you go with that relinquishing of rights. To give you a vignette of that, I would like to share with you the Rashbam in Ilchot Nachalot, chapter 3. You see it also in the code, in the Choshen Mishpat 278. I'm reading from my dear friend Rabbi Steinzel's translation of Koran edition. If a firstborn divided part of his father's estate with his brothers and took a portion that was equal, listen to the word, was equal to that of ordinary son. So again, we have to know the whole circumstantial evidence in order to determine the correct way of approach. But in a dry understanding, which means that in just a hypothetical scenario, he basically has relinquished his additional portion of the rest of the estate as well, as he received only an ordinary portion. The ruling is basically follow the Rav Papi, which disputed Rava, and we're going to discuss. So basically we're going to discuss today several scenarios of inheritance, when and where and how we say that one son has relinquished his right and how far he can relinquish, meaning he relinquish his right by having equal to all the others, especially if it's a variety of estate, or if it's a difference between land and field and house and movable property. And what happened in relationship to a firstborn when it's come to general law of inheritance, and how far you go with evaluation, especially with the sensitive subject, which is, and we unfortunately facing that all the time, when it's come to this type of issues, they always come back to the rabbinic court, to the rabbis, that try us to basically reconcile by Torah law the differences between the brothers. So in order to bestow peace in the family, which unfortunately we all aware that the worst thing that happened to anybody is the family feuds and the family disputation, the family fights. So in order to reconcile it and do it properly, we're going through the whole logical reasoning and process to understand the Torah law, to understand the subsequent, the all evidence that lead us to certain decisions when it's come to the law of inheritance. 14 lines from top of the page 126. אמר רב אסי בכור שנטל חלק כפשוט. Rav Asi said to us, look, you have a firstborn, and Torah tells us that the firstborn entitled to take a double portion. Here is the problem. The firstborn took just ordinary part of the estate like everyone else. So as we learn in 124, the moment that happened, the Rashbam explained, is in a way relinquishing his right. He's like saying, okay, guys, I'm getting the same as everyone else, just equal to the same as my viter. So the Gemara here said, let's zoom in and understand, because you know the situation. At the beginning they say something, and then like the kids in the kindergarten, they come back and said, oh, we're sorry, we didn't meant this, we meant that. So the Gemara asks a question, what do you mean by saying he is basically relinquishes additional portion? How far you go with that? And here you see a disputation of understanding between the rabbis, how far you go with that. So you see one view, Rav Papa Mishmei de Rava Amar, Viter באותה שדה. Rav Papa said, no, he did not relinquish all of his right over the firstborn to receive a double portion. Only specifically for that field that they divided, that portion, only that portion, he relinquished his right to get equal to everyone else. Rav Papi Mishmei de Rava Amar, Viter bechol הנכסים כולם. Rav Papi said no, and that's, by the way, soon you see, I'm just giving you a heads up. The halacha, the moment he relinquish everything. Later on, we're going to see a scenario of exaggeration, like someone have the peppers, like a basket of peppers, and they divided it. Remember, those years was lots of poverty. They divided that pepper, and he let go his double portion. And the rabbi said even later on it was expensive estate that they divided. Since he relinquished his right originally, and we follow the rule of Rav Papi, it's already for everything else. So now the Gemara wants to elaborate on this disputation between Rav Papa on behalf of Rava and Rav Papi. Remember, Rav Papa said, in the name of Rava, just for that estate. Rav Papi said, you relinquish right, you relinquish forever for any other estate. רב פאפא משמי דרבא אמר ויתר באותה שדה כסבר אין לו לבכור קודם חלוקה. So he hold, look, I'm speaking only for that specific moment. The 5 brothers, I'm just using 5 brothers as an example because we use it in the 124. The 5 brothers get together. They took one estate and they divided it. So Rav Papa said, on behalf of Rava, look, it was one estate. They divided that one estate between everyone. So come on, by not saying anything over one estate, so he let go in a way his right to get double portion for that specific estate. But don't tell me that because he did it there, that means that everything else is the same. מה דעת לידי אכיל? יידח לא אכיל. So whatever he received a portion, like 20% like everyone else, so he get that portion, but it's that specifically for that field. Everything else is nothing to discuss because it didn't come to our discussion, to our court, to discuss the way that we split the estate. verses, ורב פאפי משמי דרבא אמר, ויתר בכל הנכסים כולם, as we explained earlier. The moment you relinquish your right, it's not just specifically for what we discussed at this very moment, which can be from the extreme to the extreme. Soon you see from dividing a basket of peppers to dividing a fancy mansion or large land. As long as you relinquish your right, it's over. כסבר יש לו לבחור קודם חלוקה, מדאכיל באה, אכיל בכולו. He said, look, his right, the firstborn right that the Torah emphasized, applies only prior to the moment we start dividing the estate of the late father. The moment that estate comes to our discussion, no matter if it's a 1% of the estate or 100% of the estate, no matter of the evaluation of the estate, if it's evaluation of just $1,000 or $10 billion, it makes no difference. As long as you relinquish even a small amount, it's already pre-existing condition for anything else. It's already decision forever when it's come to dividing of the estate. So the mefarshim, the rabbis later on, I'm speaking later on, meaning the era of the preceding Rashi, 12th century, Rashbam, Rabbeinu Hananel, Rambam, and many others, they struggle with all the idea of Maaseh Kinyan. Because the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isserlich of the 15th, 16th century, he basically said that you can have Mo'ila Kinyan, you can have Maaseh Kinyan. That's basically the Rosh. Rabbeinu Asher said, Rashbam said that way. How? Because they said that's Gzerat HaKatuv, that's the derivative from the pasuk that you have Mo'il Bli Kabbalat Kinyan, that you can do this matter of acquisition between parties even without making some type of symbolic, to say the least, of acquisition between parties. And the Torah used the word latet. The moment they use the word latet, meaning that's the chidush, that Rashai Limchol, that one brother can let go or relinquish his rights. The Rashba have a different way of thinking. He says, the same way as we have din de Rabbanan, the same way as we have rabbinic enactment. Remember when we talk in Tractate Bava Batra about wife-husband, when she is in our modern days language, the breadwinner. And she said to him, I knew that you commit yourself in the ketubah to a certain amount of money. But guess what? Eini nizonet ve'eini osa. Meaning, guess what? You don't need to support me, but I don't need to give you my income. So the rabbis come in and said, since we instituted, meaning the rabbis instituted the whole enactment of having ketubah, which is a marriage agreement between husband and wife by rabbinic decree, so we, by the same token, has the right to, in a way, abrogate it in part or in full, the ketubah. So in a sense, she can exercise her right to say, I don't want any support from you, and by the same token, I don't want you to partake of my income. And that's legitimate by the way that the rabbis put the structure of the ketubah. Obviously, from that derivative, we can derive in juxtaposition to our discussion, which is the matter of some type of gift. Because the Rashba said, the moment that the brother said, you know what, I don't want jealousy, I don't want to fight in the family, I relinquish. We're all going to divide it equally, and all of us going to take the same portion. So in that sense, the same way as the wife, the Rashba said, can go by the rabbinic enactment and said, I don't want you support and I don't want you to take part of me, the same way you can say it here. But that's basically the difference in the mindset. So here the Gemara wants to elaborate on the view of Rava and how far we can go with his view. So the idea is this: Veha de Rav Papi veRav Papa lav beferush itmar ela michlala itmar, which is they are not stated explicitly, rather it was stated by inference. What does that mean? So let's start with the Rashbam. The Rashbam said the moment that it was a lawsuit, in a sense, it was a tvia, it was a plaintiff and defender, and he come and he said, I want my portion, and we ask that person, the firstborn, says, did you demonstrate machita? Did you express your objection the way that they divided originally the estate? And you said, look, they refused to give me, and I was, whatever it is, I didn't demonstrate at that time. So the moment you didn't scream, yell, or do something that express your objection to that, so basically you give away, or in a sense, the divisiveness is correct, because you in a way let go. So here you see the Rashbam who bring Rabbeinu Hananel. Later you see that is actually disputation between Rabbeinu Hananel and Rashbam. But the Magid Mishneh, one of the commentary on the Rambam, he elaborate based on that, the machloket, disputation between the Rambam and the Ravid, in Ilchot Nachalot, Perek Gimel Halacha Vav, in the Law of Inheritance, chapter 3, rule Halacha number 6, he said, all of this is sugya achat. All of this discussion is basically one framework, one mindset, one thing. Here, medubar bedin mecha'a, din vitur, which means we are basically discussing the issue of the objections that the firstborn has. Why you are quiet at the first stage? What exactly it means? You really relinquish, and how? So here is the general rule. If you see the 5 brothers, I'm just using the 5 brothers because that's the scenario we talk at page 124. The 5 brothers were standing in the estate, and they are now dividing the estate. And all of a sudden, the old brother, the firstborn, Sh'at HaChalukah, the time that they divided, he was quiet, he was acquiesce, he displayed equanimity, was quiet, he didn't do anything. So, Shtika Koda, he basically expresses his consent to this type of dividing the estates. So according to Rav Papi, what we understand, and that's by the way the halacha, so he gave away his firstborn right. In a sense, one of the notion, you see it in Ksod HaChosh, Netivot HaMishpat, Reb Shmuel Brozovsky and others, the whole notion that we learn from the dialogue between Yaakov and Esav over the firstborn is the derivative from here, because what you see here, Rav Papi tells us, the moment he was one time let go, that's forever. So, in a sense, what we said at the beginning, that from being the one who has the right to get the double portion, you change your status by being passive, by not being vocal, to be pashut, chelek pashut, meaning you are like everyone else. Now, if he come and express his objection, Moshe, he stand up the firstborn, he says, Ganavim, you are thieves, how dare you do it? It's a chelek b'chora, it's my portion, I deserve it. So here you see all these big discussions, how far you go with that. So in a sense, the underlying message is also, it's kind of waiting for him to declare his right, to declare, there are people in this world that they're entitled to get payment, and they somehow embarrassed or whatever it is, they don't get paid for what they deserve to get paid, and they basically do not declare their money or their entitlement for certain things that they are totally deserved for all kind of reasons. And one of my teachers used to say, guess what, you don't declare over that, someone else will going to collect that money. So here you see a case scenario. The Rambam said, if you have, for example, a house and a field, and they divided the house, and the firstborn was screaming and yelling, I deserve double portion. And then when they divided the field, he didn't do anything. He just let go. So the Rambam asked, is that mean it kaven limchol? He let go his double portion from the field? So the question is that interconnected? So if you go by the Rav Papi, what we said, Rav Papi said, Mechilat Gmura Lakol, that he let go for everything. One time it happens, is for everything. So the big question is, but in a case like that, which is in the house and the field, and the house he demonstrated his objections and they feel he didn't do it, so the big question is, you call it shinui mahut or not shinui mahut? It's basically you go and you say that he deserved it or not. That's basically the source of what we said here. Lav beperush itmar ela michlala itmar. It's not stated explicitly, rather it was stated by inference. Why? Da'ahu bechor de'azil zabi nichsei. So it was a case, just in a way almost the opposite, that the firstborn went ahead and he took the estate, meaning he took the entire estate, that they should divided it in a way that he should get a double portion and the other brothers get the rest. But what he do, and soon you see, he felt that he's doing that in order to enhance the value of the estate. For example, is a prediction that everything is going to fall apart and he sell it quickly. Whatever it is, he took the entire estate without the consent of his brothers and he sold everything. So didei ude pashut, which means he sold his portion, which is double, and the pashut is the regular portion that all the other brothers have. Azul yatmei, so now the orphan, meaning the children of the brother who's no longer among the living, but it's called Bnei Pashut, the brother that was not the firstborn, Lemeichal Tamrei, Mehanhu Lekuchot. So what happened is, again, it was a field, and part of the field was a palm tree that produced dates. This firstborn, without the consent, came and sold it. The children of the deceased brother who deserved to get just a regular portion went ahead. Remember, this is the era of poverty and people need food, and they went ahead and they basically ate from those dates that came out of that field, that basically in part originally entitled to be their part from their late father. Machunhu, the buyer that bought it from the, in a way, unscrupulous brother that sold it with the consent, without the consent of the others, the firstborn, they beat up those orphans for coming out to the field and eat from those dates. Now, let's understand. First and foremost, just a little vignette from the Chazon Ish. There is a book called Pe'er Hador, and over there is a story about Maran Rav Karelitz, the great Chazon Ish, that it was one of the Rabbanim in Bnei Brak that ruled in a certain way. And people felt that his ruling was basically not in conjunction of Jewish law. And when they come to complain the Chazon Ish and everything, he showed just one small prat, one small line within the entire story, that if you zoom in and comprehend what happened, then you see why they rule in a certain way. That's basically the Rashbam said in next page, Kuf Kavav Amud Bet. So here you have this little part, which we call in a simple Hebrew, Ratzachta vegam yarashta. You kill, and after killing you also inheritance. How dare you to beat up the orphan, the children that come and eat that date while it's there? Why is there? Because the firstborn, as much as he is entitled to get a double portion, he was not entitled to sell the whole estate. And now the people who bought it for him in a way illegally, they have no right to beat up the orphan of the brother that entitled to get just a regular portion. Amre lehu, Krovim, the relatives of those orphans, said to them, Lo mistayad es davintu linchasayu ele mimcha namei machitu lei. They said to them, what's wrong with you? They said, not only did you purchase their property illegally. Why is that? Because you know, buyers are not stupid. You bought it and you know that his other brothers. And you bought it from the older brother that as much as he have a large portion because he is the firstborn, but it wasn't the consent of other brothers. And now, since it's not enough that you bought this estate illegally, so now you're going to tell the orphan, the survivor children of that deceased brother, and you're going to hit them for eating the dates that come out of some of those palm trees? That's cruel and ridiculous and outrageous and rude, right? So atu lekamei de Rava. So both parties came before the Rava. Amar lehu lo asa velo chlum. Beautiful. He said to them, guess what? All these sales is not valid. The firstborn was done nothing. His sale was not valid. The whole story, it's wrong, and we have to start from square one. And all these sales has no validity because it wasn't the consent of the other brother. 126b, Mar Savar, which is Rav Papi hold, Lo asa klum befalga. He said he has done nothing with the brother's portion because he has no right to sell it. Now, the other portion, the additional portion, the sale was valid. So, obviously, what do you do here? So, if the firstborn let go in one estate, it's go, as we said, by that view of Papi, everything else. Umar Savar of Papa hold, Bechulhu, that it's done nothing with regard to all the property because it does not possess additional portion before the property is divided between the brothers. So basically you have a machloket rishonim, a disputation. You see it between Tosfot and Rashbam and many more. What exactly, what exactly involved with the part, Tosfot said, of the firstborn? Meaning, let's understand. When you have an entity of a firstborn, I'm just using it as an example, let's call him Reuven, the firstborn. So the firstborn has, if we have 5 brothers, for example, so we have 20% for each brother. That's a regular pashut part, and then they have another 20% which you take from the entire estate and you give it to the first brother. So basically you evaluate the 100% first time and then second time. First time you give double portion, meaning, so we in a way divided the double portion to 2 parts, which is one part that it's equal to all the others, and then one part that equal to all the others gets just to one brother. So here the big question is how you treated the chelek pashut, the one portion that the bechor, the firstborn, gets, the same as all the other brothers. How exactly you treat it because of these complications. So in short, in a very short, the way Tosfot describe it and many others, we have here 2 chidushim, 2 in a way fresh, unbelievable new idea that come out by the Jewish law. Number 1, as we learn, mochel b'miktzat, mochel be'akol. You gave away even one portion, you gave away everything. How? So let's see the first one and then we see the second one. So let's first read it quickly. And we said as follow: שלחו מיתם בכור שמחר קודם חלוקה לא עשה כלום. If you have a case that the firstborn sold the portion before they divided it properly, so imagine a situation, you have one of the brothers, in this case is the oldest, he took the estate clandestinely, surreptitiously, took this and sold it to a stranger. Alright? So as much as he is entitled, not only entitled, but he is entitled to double portion, by the merely fact that it was done in such a sneaky way, has no halachic validity, because it was prior to the legal action of dividing the estate properly. So, just to get a vignette of that, it was a great rabbi contemporary, Rabbi Shmuel Rozovsky. He explained the view of the Rashbam that disputed the Tosfot, as we mentioned earlier, and he bring a Ma'arach or Zarua, which is again one of the luminary rabbi for the previous generation, and he said, look, It's called Tfusat Habayit. Let's say in those days in Israel, they used to have Aguda Ottomanit. What does that mean? It was the Turk that controlled Israel, or at that time Palestine, and they have Ottomanian law. Ottomanian is like the Turkish old laws, that because they control the estates, they basically follow that policy, that rules. So basically they make some type of incorporation, which is we are partner, meaning for example we have 5 partners of that estate, but we make the bylaw in such a way, we have like a constitution, that no one of all these partners can sell any part, either part or all of the estate, without the consent of everyone else. And by structure it this way, you cannot do any sneaky trick under the table without, in our modern days language, a normal board meeting, a normal partnership meeting. And that bylaw, that constitution, structure the control of that incorporation or LLC or whatever you call it in Ottomanian law, which is basically structure in a way that no one can do anything under the table. It was one, I'm going to mention name, but one very well-known minister of treasury in Israel in those years. I'm talking about the 70s. And the famous joke about him, painful joke, but whatever, it's that after he passed away, they built a table on his grave, and they put like permanent table on his grave. Why is that? Because from now on he cannot do anything under the table. You understand the joke? Anyway, Alma, ein lo labchor kodem chaluka. The firstborn, those who know who I'm talking about. Anyway, so they said that according to the sages of Eretz Israel, the firstborn has no right prior to dividing the estate. V'hilcheta yesh labchor kodem chaluka. So the halacha he, which is fascinating mindset in Jewish law, which soon you see it's also general law derivative from that, in some subsequent similar court cases, that the firstborn has a right to his additional portion before the division. And the point is, if you have prior to dividing the estate, all these tricks that happen prior to dividing the estate has no effect, no legal effect. We are now going to use a case scenario in real life, meaning real life I meant in the Talmudic time, but soon you see the derivative. Marzutra was the firstborn. Min de Rishba, he was from a city called Rishba. Palag betzana de filfilei ba'adeachin b'shaveh. It's almost like a joke. It was a big basket of pepper. My dear friends, how much a basket of pepper worth? Right? But this fellow, Marzutra, who's the firstborn, he in a way relinquished his right, because they took this big basket of peppers and they divided it among the brothers, and each one of them get equal part. Now guess what happened? Later on it was heavy estate, right? For example, they're about to divide their house or land or whatever it is later on. So they get before the court. Ravashi was the rabbi that ruled in the rabbinic court at that time. And now they're fighting. What they're fighting? They said, oh, when you divided the basket of pepper, you relinquished your right as a firstborn, so everything else is over. Is that true? אמר לי, הואיל וויתרת במקצת, ויתרת בכל הנכסים כולם. Amazing rules. Ravashi said to him, the moment you, Marzutra, the firstborn, relinquish your right even over nothing, over a basket of peppers, you relinquish your right for everything else, even is worth $1 billion. So we have two derivatives by the Jewish law here. Number one, the chidush number one is, the moment you relinquish something, you relinquish everything, and that's the halacha. But the deepest part of this is the idea of peppers, and I think that's by the Netivot HaMishpat, Sodachosh and Nados, that's the depth part of this story. The idea that by halacha we don't show any differentiation in that case between $1 billion and $100. The moment that you basically let go, you let go for everything. So as much as you think about it and you said to yourself, maybe this guy, Mar Zutra, for example, thought, you know what, how much this basket of pepper worth? It's small things, $100, whatever it is, let it go. Later, when we go to a big land, then we're going to have a real fight or real understanding that I deserve double portion because I'm the firstborn. Excuse me, you don't do one step before thinking of the subsequent order that's going to happen later. And the moment you basically accepted something, that's the rule, it's over. I would like to share with you the Rambam before we continue on. The Rambam in Ilchot Nachalot, just a vignette of the Rambam, chapter 3. If a firstborn sells his additional portion before the brothers divide the estate, the sale is valid. As the firstborn has the right to his additional portion before the division. That's basically the way the Gemara said. But as we see, there's a way more to discuss it, because pepper here arrived in Babylonia from East Asia, so it was a great distance and most probably has a significant amount of money, but regardless, it's a very refreshing, deep, new mindset of Jewish law that derivative from here. Let's go to the Mishnah. Here the Mishnah, we're going for a painful situation that we have wise guys. What is a wise guy? I'm just using it as an example. Here is a father. He decided to show partiality or to overrule in that sense of the Torah, which is impossible. So here, a fellow said, okay, I know the Torah law, but I make my own rules because it's my money. Do you ever hear guys like that? האומר איש פלוני בני בכור לא ייטול פי שניים. Yes, the Torah said that the firstborn entitled to get double portion, but it's my money and I can make my own rules. איש פלוני בני לא יירש ימך. Another thing he decided, he have 5 sons, so he decided that one of them he disliked, so he disinherited one son from all the others. Horrible, right? But there are people in the world like that for all kinds of reasons. The Mishnah come and tell us, lo amar klum, that his statement has no validity, is absolutely nothing. Why? Shehitna al ma shekatuv b'Torah. Because he has stipulated counter to what is clearly, lucidly written in the Torah. What the Torah said to us? The Torah said to us clearly that the firstborn entitled to double portion, that you divided between the sons equally, etc., etc. So you, with all due respect as a father, and you work hard on your property or you inherited something from your ancestors, big deal. The moment that you make a will, and again, let's understand, we are not talking matana michaim, we're not talking that you take some estate and it says, right now at this very moment, pull out my estate, take it, it's yours. That's a different story. That's matana michaim, that's legal. But if you're writing a will with the assumption that the will follow the Jewish law, which is Maaseh Kinyan and 2 witnesses and everything else, and after doing so, you make the will that it's opposing the Torah law by disinheriting one child, by invalidating one firstborn and make him equal to all the others, or making all these sneaky tricks that don't follow structure of Torah law, and we examine the will, guess what? This is invalid. You can't do it. המחלק נכסיו על פיו. If someone just decided to divide his estate, he doesn't make any kinyan, any matter of acquisition, he just say it. Riba le'echad umi'et le'echad. He did something that in our modern day language, horrible. He just gave one son more than he gave another son less. Okay? V'yishva lahen et habechor. And he basically make the firstborn equal to all the other brothers. So here is a different story. Because what he's doing now, he's taking the current estate while he is alive and giving a current gift to his children. So the moment is called matana, meaning it's a gift, it's not yerusha, it's not inheritance. So that's illegal, dvarav kayamim. That's valid. Ve'im amar, but however, listen the language of the Mishnah. If he said, no, I'm making now a rule and going to show partiality. I like this son that respect me more or do something for me better, and this son I don't like for all kind of reasons, so I'm going to give this one more than the other one. Mishum Yerusha, if you make it as a matter of will, and again we have to examine as rabbinic court carefully every word and every statement of the will, but the moment you make it not as a gift, you make it as a will, Lo amar klum, has no validity. Why? Because again, this language opposes the law of the Torah. Katav ben batchila, ben baemtza, ben basof, mishum matana. Again, we take the will and we examine by total objective judges. And they see if within the language of the will, which we have to look very carefully to every statement and every word and examine the truth and validity of that will. But if there is a portion in the will that stated lucidly and clearly that it is given as a gift, v'arav kayamim, then it's again valid. So again, what happened here, we need to see the exact language and the exact way that it's written. Because unfortunately, there are cases of people, for example, as we discussed it a lot, a person is under anesthesia. He came out of a surgery. He have a stroke. And his wife has a favor of one son more than the others. And she basically pushed one son and influenced the father when he was not in 100% mental state. And the cases are numerous. And then is a war in the family and a family feud that perpetuated forever. So this unfortunately can lead to a tremendous bigotry and animosity and worse war within the family. We try to eliminate. And therefore the Torah gives us a huge, as we said, now we're getting to Festival of Shavuot, the blueprint of life, how to behave properly. We have the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman on the Torah. He said in Parashat Ki Teitzeh, chapter 21, verse 16, the Torah speaks there in a painful case. What is the case? Is a man that has a wife and has sons from the first wife. He divorced his wife and he have a second wife. And he have sons from the second wife. So the Torah said the sons from the first wife, as much as the Torah used the word snu'ah, meaning hated wife, you really despise her, but you have the firstborn from her, you cannot show partiality and give the sons from the second wife that you love so much more than the double portion you must give to the first son of the first wife, as much as you don't like her, but the firstborn son deserves to get a double portion. So it's a special dedicated word within the text in the Torah about it. So because the Ramban said, use the term al pnei, meaning you show partiality to one, meaning the one who's the son of the hated wife, the firstborn, which means that the Ramban said, if all of that applies, if the firstborn was alive, meaning during the life of the father, the firstborn was alive. But if the firstborn passed away before the father die, so even he has a double portion that can inherit it to his sons, but if the father said, no, I'm giving all equal, is feasible. Why? He derived from the story of Nadav and Avihu, that they died during the life of the father, Aharon, and he said, you can give equal, al pnei terach, but the Ktsot HaChoshen, you see it also, Rabbi Shaya Peak said, the Ktsot HaChoshen bring Ma'arit. He said that even, Choshen Mishpat Ayin Aleph, even the firstborn die, like Nadav, the firstborn of Aaron, while Aaron was alive, he cannot make his firstborn the same as everyone else. And they have a Pitche Tshuva on that, and Pnei Moshe, but as we see it, it's a serious, very serious subject in Halakha. Anyway, let's continue. Now we go to the Gemara. Leima matnitin delo Rabbi Yehuda. You mean to say that the Mishnah did not follow Rabbi Yehuda? Why? The Rabbi Yehuda amar bedavar shemamon tnao kayam. Rabbi Yehuda said that if it's a monetary issue, his condition, his stipulation is in effect. Someone said to a woman, again, it's a hypothetical situation, that as much as the Torah said in order to betroth a woman, you need to be responsible for three things. The she'era, which is the food, kesut, which is the clothing, and onata is the relation. So basically, you overrule the Torah law that said that you are responsible for these three. But if he preconditioned with her that I'm going to have you betrothed to me without this three condition, harezu mekudeshet utnao batel, meaning she's betrothed to him and he is still responsible because his stipulation has no validity. That's the view of Rabbi Meir, the Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, when it's come to a monetary matter, for example, food or clothing, his stipulation is stand, despite being counter to that which is written in the Torah. So basically, you see the view of Rabbi Yehuda, that one should be able to stipulate that his firstborn son not receive a double portion, or that one of his sons not inherited him at all, as inheritance is a monetary matter. So the Gemara rejected, says, Afilu temer Rabbi Yehuda, ha'atam over there, yad'a v'kamachala, ha'chaka lo machil. You have to differentiate between situation that one let go than to waive a portion, but here it's not, so therefore the stipulation is not valid. Now, we should know that there's I wish to have more time, but there's a long discussion here among the rabbis. What exactly, for example, agrees a Levi in Ilchot Nachalot chapter 6, deal with all the nuances here. Just give you the vignette. אמר רבי יוסי אמר איש פלוני בכורי הוא ונוטל פי שניים, איש פלוני בכור הוא אינו נוטל פי שניים, דילמה ברוכה דאמא כאמר. He may be meant to say the mother firstborn, not his own. How דעת לקמא דרבא בר חנא אמר להם מוחזקני בזה שהוא בכור. Says before the Rabba bar Chama that I know this particular person that he is firstborn to his father, so therefore he deserves to get double portion. אמר להם מנאי הדעת, how do you know? דאבקר לאבו אבוכה שיחלה. That his father used to call him, I'm sorry to say, stupid fool, firstborn. Is that proof that he is a firstborn? Just because the father called him fool, stupid firstborn? Dilma bucha de imahu. Maybe he's the firstborn from his mother, not from his father. The whole bucha de ima na bucha sichla karulei. Because he can call someone stupid fool, firstborn, also to someone from the mother. I know this fellow that is the firstborn to his father. Rabbi Chanina asked, how do you know? אמר לי, דחיה אבואת ולגבי אבואה. When people come, they have issue with the sight, with the eyes, so they come before the father. אמר לו, the father used to say to those people, זילו לגבי שכחת ברית אבוך ומעשה רוקי. He said, go to my son, Shikrat, as he is the firstborn, and his saliva, this is ancient idea, heals their ailment. So because of that, he said it. So the Gemara said, no, wait a second, how do you know? Maybe it's the mother's firstborn. So the Gemara said, no. Gmirei, we have this tradition that what? That the bucha de abba maseruke, bucha de ima la maseruke. Again, this is the Gemara time, but we can have a lot of derivative. They say the saliva of the firstborn father heals this ailment, but the mother is not. Now, we should know that in the Shut Tashbetz is the great rabbi of Algeria of the 14th century, Chuvot Shimon ben I think Tzemach or Tzedek. Anyway, in Chelek Aleph Siman Unchet 58, he asked that question that they testified over the deceased, let's call him Reuven, that he said that his father, that he's a first cousin, and he has a son that passed away. And the question is if that's sufficient to take a testimony and to hold this fellow Reuven for his estate, or only if it was pre-designated by the deceased. So he struggled with that, but eventually he said the whole idea of the testimony is basically to reconfirm something. But here, because this is the closest one, the closest kin who declare connection to that, so we have to go that way. But as we said, you see it in Ktsot HaChoshen, you see it in Netivot, you see it Chatam Sofer, and many more. A big discussion how far you see. I would like to conclude with almost like midrashic point, because the Rashbam here used the word lachoshesim benehem, those who have concern over the sight. So the Imre Emet, the great Ger Rebbe Zatzal, he went on a train in those days in Poland. So as a fellow came before the Imre Emet, the Ger Rebbe, and he said that he had an eye pain in his eyes. So he said, he quoted our Gemarrah in Bava Batra 126b, that said that the firstborn should spit in the eye of a sick person, and that will basically heal. So he meant to say the Imre Emet that was the firstborn. So he said, no, that's not, doesn't mean that I have to do that. And he said, almost like joking, he said that now we understand what the Midrash said in Parashat Toldot, in Bereshit Rabbah Samech Zayin. Over there they said that Reish Lakish התחיל מחכך בגרונו, that he was like in his throat, כמן דמחייך וזורק רוק בפיו, like someone who bring the saliva out his mouth. ויאמר אחי ויעקבני את בכורי לקח. So the idea is, what's the purpose of doing so? Mention that. So meaning up to this point he didn't feel that he missed, so he needs the right of the firstborn, Esav. But now when the father Yitzchak kahu enav, he hardly sees, so he in a way want to spit in his eye because he thought that he is the firstborn. But when he realized that by doing so the eye of Yitzchak, his father, will not heal, he realized that he is not the firstborn. So then that's the reason why Esav screamed and said, Et bechorati lakach, that Yaakov took the firstborn right from me. But again, that's the derech tzaruchut of the Imre Emet.